welcome to another episode of Lids Off. I am your host, Bo Snow, and we are joined here with a very special guest for a different kind of episode tonight, and I am very excited for it. So, would you like to introduce yourself, Queen?
Yeah, so I'm Aimee Mulcahy. Pronouns are she, her. I'm 28 years old and currently play for Hertfordshire Cheetahs and GB. My position is D-line, specifically sort of defensive end, and my NFL team, no hate, all right? Patriots. And I know. I knew it was going to come. But there's a whole reasoning behind it, and we'll probably get into it shortly anyway.
We started off so strong. No, I'm joking. That's amazing. So, shall we start at the beginning? How did American football find you?
To be honest, I think I probably came into the sport fairly late. So I've always been massively into sports. Like, it's been my entire life. I've played literally everything. So like football, rugby, netball, tennis, rounders. It's just genuinely one of my biggest passions in my life. So I'd always been into sort of my sports. My main sports were sort of like football, as in sort of soccer, and rugby. And
Union
then
or league?
Union.
Ah, perfect. The better one, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally agree. Man, I ain't got the cardio for rugby league. Kills me off. Absolutely kills me off. And I think, and because I love sports so much, I watch like all the sports documentaries, all the programs that come out. And it was about 2019, I think, when Last Chance U came onto Netflix. And it's like an American football documentary about sort of college football over in America. And I watched that and I was like, oh, yeah, this is good. And I've not really been into the NFL before, never really watched it. Only sort of seen it in like American films, but never really paid much attention to it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, watched that documentary and I just fell in love with that documentary. I just loved seeing how hard they trained, and it was just interesting to see a different sport that I hadn't already played or knew all about. And then I actually went over to Vegas with my nan for my 21st. And
that's incredible.
Whilst we were over there, it was the Super Bowl. And there were lots of sort of the pubs and bars were doing these massive Super Bowl parties. And we were like, well, if we're here, let's go to a Super Bowl party. So we booked up tickets to a Super Bowl party. And at the time, I think it was the Patriots and the Eagles, and they were in the Super Bowl final. And we had to pick a jersey to go to this Super Bowl party for. And the only size they held our jersey in was Patriots, which is why I'm a Patriots fan. So that's how we led on to that. Watching the game. Yeah, watching the game at the bar and just seeing how mad the fans were going in the bars and stuff. I was like, this is just a really interesting sport. When I come back to England, I just started researching it just to see if it was even a thing for women. Like, I genuinely didn't even know if we played American football in this country for women. It'd never come across my algorithm on social media, nothing like that. And I knew someone that played American football. He was a guy and he played down in Kent for Kent Exiles. And I Googled it and yeah, it just popped up. At the time I was living in Kent. So it was the Kent Exiles team that I originally went to, and I played there and done my first season with them. So that's how I got into the sport.
Oh my God. So you said about like the buzz and the atmosphere around kind of American football, but what was it about you watching the game that was like, actually, I want to get involved in that? That's a bit of me.
I think it's just because it was so different from anything I'd played or really watched before. I was just intrigued by it, and I just didn't get it either. And I couldn't get it out of my head because I couldn't understand it. And because I love sports so much, it was almost become like a challenge. Like, oh, I've got to figure it out now. I've got to see like what this is about and what they're all doing, and they're just so quick and they're just such athletes that are playing American football. So yeah, I was just intrigued and hooked from then. I just had to get involved somehow.
So were you nervous? Because you said that you've been an athlete all your life. Were you nervous turning up to your rookie session?
Not nervous to go and play. Like, as I said, I'd go and play anything. Any sports, I'd just jump in just because I love it. I was more nervous about wearing pads and helmets, and I thought, oh my God, like, Is it gonna be anything that fits me? Like I'm a top heavy girl. I'll be honest. So I was like, geez, like how are they gonna squeeze me into a set of these pads? Without me busting out the sides of it or whatever. And but yeah, I think once you get there and the coaches have got all the equipment, they're ready to go. And they sort of bang a helmet on your head and chuck you in a set of pads, even though they're not, completely right. As soon as you're in the kit as well, you just feel more involved in it already. You already feel part of the team, part of something. Just putting the helmet and pads on. So that was my main concern, was kit rather than actually going and playing.
So, how did you get sorted into D-line? What was it? Was it aligned with your kind of similar position in rugby, or?
I wouldn't say so. I think it was. I think originally I was intended to be I was pigeonholed to be a linebacker. But obviously, as a rookie coming into a sport, to be a linebacker, you've got to have a good amount of football IQ there. You've got to have a good understanding of the game. And because I work sort of full time in the emergency services, my sort of ability to come to a lot of training sessions I was struggling with. So they were like, we'll start you off at D-line because, we can sort of simplify that for you and you can get some game time. And I think I literally rocked up on my first game to go and play for Kent. I was late because I'd been on a night shift from work, finished in the morning, drove over to play this first game, and turned up, probably 10, 15 minutes before the game was due to happen. And they were like, yeah, you can go on, have a bit of game time. First time playing D-line sort of in a game situation. I'd played it in training, had sort of a rough idea, knowing what I was doing. Game day situation, I just loved it. And I haven't even looked back. I've just stayed with D-line now. I'm not even interested in linebacker. I'm not interested in the rest of them. I bloody love being in the trenches, being a lineman. I just love it. I genuinely think it's the best position on the team. I'm going to be biased, but we're the toughest people out there. We get hit every single play. There's no sitting back and watching. You're just in it 24/7.
So, what was your first game like? Who were you against, and what was it like?
So we were against. When I was playing in Kent, we were in League Two, and we were with like the Dreadnoughts and the Royals back then. And I remember our first game we played, and I played against one of my quite close friends now, Lou. She plays for GB as well. And I remember, yeah, we've got a few good pictures. There's a good picture of her completely washing me out, but then there's also a good picture of her holding me. So we like to sort of wind up each other about that. But yeah, we played against each other then. And yeah, it was fantastic. It was a steep learning curve, especially playing against someone like Lou that's got a lot of experience in the game as well. I just remember she kept on hitting me on the back of the head and telling me to keep my head up. And telling me off. So, but it helped, and it's something I learned from. And yeah, I just loved it. And from then on, as I said, I've played every single game. Played at D-line. It was fantastic.
So was it very much addictive as soon as you got that first?
Absolutely. It's just that really short period, high intensity, and it's scrapping. That's the only way I could describe it. It's technical scrapping. I'm not the biggest D-lineman. I'm not the biggest D-lineman in the world. Yeah, I'm definitely not one of the bigger D-linemen, I'd say. But I like coming. It's a challenge, isn't it? I'm going to get past you. I'm going to get through you, even if you're bigger than me, even if you're quicker than me. And I'm going to get to your QB. So quite enjoy that.
What was it like when you got your first sack?
I don't think I even knew what I'd done. So I think I'd actually forced a fumble. The ball had gone down, and then I instinctively jumped on it, and we were actually in the end zone, and it was a touchdown. So it was like a forced fumble, D-lineman touchdown, and everyone was going wild. And I just picked up the ball to give it back to the ref. I was like, "Here you go." Like, I don't really understand what's gone on here. And then it was afterwards that it was explained. I was like, "Oh, fair, yeah, decent."
Fucking hell, that's a statement for the start of your career. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, it's the one and only one, I will say. So I put a pin in it. It only ever happened once, never happened again. But, start high and then...
So, I mean, it sounds like you were like a fish to water. So where did the natural progression to GB come from? Was it something that your coaches put you forward to, or was it something that you were aware of? Or
Yeah, I mean, again, I didn't even know that Great Britain had a women's American football team or a men's American football team. I just had no idea. As I said, it's just not in that mainstream category of sports, is it? And you don't see it at the Olympics, you don't see it very often at all. I just knew it was over in America. I just didn't think we really had it here. And I think it was the end of our season with Kent. We won all of our games, and we were the conference champions, and we were meant to be going to the finals, to be going playing against other teams in the country. But it was just before sort of around COVID hit, and it was around that time, so the finals were cancelled. One of the coaches basically came and said to me, I think we could, with a bit more sort of time, effort, knowledge and stuff, I think you could go towards sort of GB level and stuff like that. And that was mad. I didn't even think that was possible. But when I heard that, it was like eyes open, thinking, man, like this could really be something I go somewhere with. As I said, sports has always been such a big thing. So if I could have had anything in life, it would have been to be able to play sports, for it to have been my career, to be able to represent my country. Like, genuinely, that was always something I always wanted to do. And I'd sort of got to a point in rugby and soccer, football, where I knew I weren't going to get any better. I'd sort of hit my roof in terms of those sports. So sort of having that avenue open to me in a different sport where I was excelling, I was like, yeah, big, let's go. But yeah, COVID hit. And then that was also the time when I fell pregnant with my daughter. So there were a few lockdown babies, weren't there? I'm not saying that's all we did during lockdown.
Hey, there's no judgment here. We've all got to keep busy. So, was she planned, or was it just a happy accident? Or
definitely a happy accident. So I've actually got polycystic ovaries.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So I'd been to the doctors and had a couple of scans and stuff like that, and they pretty much said you probably need help to conceive at some point if you wanted to have children, kind of thing. And at the time, I was like, what will be, will be. If I'm meant to have children, then I will. If I'm not, then I won't. And I know that a lot of people are in similar predicaments. It's quite tough to go through, I think, and not knowing how your future's going to pan out, if you're going to have kids or not. But I weren't overly worried at the time because, as I said, I was very much into my sports. I had a good career. I was just sort of living life. And then, so it was a happy accident, and we were very happy. And it was, generally the best thing that's happened to me is having my daughter, without a doubt. So it all worked out for the best, really.
So, what was that like for you mentally, to go from a place where you're like, oh my God, we now have this angel, but I was at like a level where you were just about to be on the precipice of representing your country? How do you how did you manage that mentally?
I think it was a bit of an odd one. I think obviously because there were such dramatic things going on in the world at the time, football sort of took a back foot for me. We also moved. So just after my daughter was born, we moved 100 miles up the country towards sort of Hertfordshire area. So I left Kent Exiles all within that same maternity period, moved jobs, moved houses, everything, because I've got family that live up this way. And the intention was for them to be, help and support for having a baby and stuff like that. So we moved up here. There was so much going on in the world that I hadn't even really considered how or when I was going to come back to football, or what my football career would look like at that point. And I think it was probably, my daughter was about 3 months. And then I thought, I'm going to look and I'm going to sort of think about coming back to football and how I'm going to do it. And there was a massive part of me that was suddenly very insecure and uncertain of my ability in sport, and uncertain of my place in sport.
Really?
Yeah, it was. I think as well, your hormones are sort of everywhere just after you've had a baby, and we were in lockdown. I was home alone a lot during the day, looking after a crying baby, and it can it takes a bit of a toll on you. And I just thought, man, how can I go back and meet a whole new team of people, try and make friends again, try and pick up where I left off, where I'd left Kent on such a high, having won all these games, been conference champions, thinking about GB. And then I was like, I'm going to be too slow. I'm going to be too weak. I was like, I'm not going to have the time to be able to put into this. Like, what am I going to do? And I think I was eventually 18 weeks postpartum when I came back to football. I went down to Hertfordshire Cheetahs for the first time. And I was still breastfeeding at the time. So that was another thing that I had to think about, pumping milk to be left at home with my husband so I could go and play football for a couple of hours. It's all just little things you don't really think about or consider until you have to do it. And it's just like the mental load of having another human being to look after. It just sort of plays in your mind. But yeah, I think once I actually got to training, once I put my kit back on, and once I started running around again, I felt like I'd never left, and I actually really enjoyed it. And they were great down there as well, down at Hertfordshire Cheetahs. Like, the coaches was just so easy to talk to, and they were really accepting, and the players were really easy to get on with. And there's a couple of mums as well on the team, so I was like, my biggest fear was that I was going to be the only mum on the team, and then no one would sort of understand my predicaments or where I'm coming from. And I got there, and there's another couple mums on the team. I was like, grand, this is fantastic. And then not only that, the person that I was playing D-line with was also a mum.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it couldn't have worked out better. We were like the D-line mums. We call ourselves the MILFs.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
So it was really good going back, but there was a lot of sort of mental blocks to going back initially, I'd say.
Do you feel like you got any support, or was there any kind of resources out there in terms of supporting you? Because your body changes so much, like, after growing a human. It's like phenomenal, but also like it physically alters you. Do you feel like you kind of had many resources or support out there for mums that are athletes?
I don't think there's like an incredible amount of information like readily available. It's not something that health visitors talk about, and it's not something that's given to you on a leaflet after you have a baby. And I think, again, because we were in lockdown, we weren't even having the regular health visitors appointments. We weren't getting to see people face to face. So it was a bit of a strange period, really. So it was more just sort of relying on researching on the internet and stuff. And I think I don't even know, but potentially I came back too early. Like, I don't know. I mean, I didn't suffer any injuries or anything through coming back too early, but I couldn't even tell you what the recommended waiting time was, because it just wasn't easy to find that sort of information. All I do know is when I went back, we were doing some stretches and stuff, and suddenly I could touch my toes. I've never been able to touch my toes in my entire life. And now suddenly, after having a baby, I can touch my toes. And it's all good. Apparently your ligaments and stuff are a bit more elastic. So that was good.
Way.
Yeah. So and your feet get bigger. I had to buy bigger boots. Your feet get bigger in pregnancy. I had to buy bigger boots, but I could touch my toes. So, swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Hey, so if you don't mind us talking a little bit more, you said that you were still kind of breastfeeding at the time.
Yeah.
Like, how was that for you, kind of kitting up, going towards tournaments? Was there like an accessible space for you to kind of have to if you needed to change at all or pump? Because is it like, I'm completely ignorant to this, like, is there like set times that you need to do it, or can you preempt it?
So you can sort of preempt it. I mean, I tried to, when I knew I was going back and I'd made the decision that I was definitely going back, I sort of started trying to pump milk in advance so that I could have it. You can freeze it and stuff, so you can put it in
That's amazing.
yeah, it's not just like randomly floating about my freezer with the peas and carrots or anything. You put it in like sectioned off bags, and it doesn't touch anything else. But yeah, so I could do that in advance. So it meant that whilst I was gone, I didn't have that worry of how's my child going to eat if I'm not here, because obviously you don't wean children until they're of a certain age. And she wasn't at the age at that time where she could be given sort of food solid food, stuff like that. So it needed to be milk. We didn't stay breastfeeding for long, honestly. We stopped at about 5.5, 6 months because it is incredibly hard. And I take my hat off to anyone that manages to do it for those periods of time. And I've always said that you get this big argument, breast is bed, fed is best. And, I just think at the end of the day, as long as your child is fed somehow, some way, that's all that matters. So that's a big thing I think that mums always worry about.
I feel like it doesn't matter how you raise your child, like there's always like a hyper focus on mums, and there's always that kind of view of you're doing it wrong and therefore you're a bad mum.
Yeah.
So how, as an athlete, how did your body kind of cope with that transition back into contact? Was it like, did you treat it kind of like returning from an injury, or did you just go hell for leather and
Yeah, no,
you
I
went
just
hell
went.
for...
Oh, but yeah, I went straight back into it. I didn't even think. I think I just got so excited, even in the warm up, to be running around and kitted back up again, that I just switched off for a moment, and I think I just forgot. I didn't forget I was a mum, but I was able to tune out for a minute that I was, and I just sort of played, and I didn't have any pains or niggles or anything that I was concerned about. It was a bit of a running joke, during stretch, a couple of stretches. As I said, this one might be a bit risky for me. I'm only 18 weeks postpartum, but that was more of an icebreaker and trying to make people laugh so I could make friends. So I used it to my advantage anyway. But yeah, no, I mean, I didn't particularly have to. I know some women definitely would have to. I think especially if you're coming back for something like a C-section, that's major surgery. You're out for a long time recovering from that. Even just natural childbirth, the sort of long-term things that come with that, if you need any stitches or anything, it's a long thing to go through, and that's something that I imagine is quite difficult to deal with afterwards. So.
Yeah, I know, like bladder control is kind of an issue with, I know, some of the players on our team
Yeah,
as well. So it's like,
yeah, that definitely. It's sort of a running joke. If, you hit me too hard, I'll probably pee, and it's still the same now.
So how do you kind of manage the demands of being a mum, especially as like a first time mum as well? Like, do you find that it was easier for you because you've always been an athlete, that you've kind of been, when you are in sport, do you find that you're quite focused?
I mean, I can only really speak for how I sort of dealt with it, in terms of, for me, when the only time I truly tune out of everything in the world is when I'm in the middle of playing sports somehow. So it was the only time since my daughter was born, when I went back to football, that I'd almost felt like me again, rather than just the mum of the child, the caregiver, the feeder, the cleaner, the cooker, all the bits that come with sort of staying at home with a baby. When I got to go back to sports, and when I went back to football, I just tuned out and I just felt like me again. I felt like I'd almost got my bit of my identity back again. And I felt like it then gave me the confidence to then start trying to get involved in other things again, and just getting back into life, really. I think when you've a first time mum, or just becoming a mum in general, it can be quite isolating. And I think as well, like postpartum hormones and stuff like that can be quite difficult to manage and deal with. And it can make you think a lot of things that aren't necessarily true about yourself, and you can feel quite low about yourself and stuff like that. But yeah, just going back and then tuning out and just playing and just being one of a team, and just being a football player for 2 hours on a Saturday and an hour on a Wednesday, it was a really good feeling. And it was good to just do something for me again.
And I think that in turn probably makes you a better mum. Well, most definitely makes you a better mum if you've got that mental like space to breathe and recharge. Then you can be a better mum and partner as well. Do you think?
Absolutely. I think having that little bit of breathing space sometimes means that you can come back and you can just give more. Because sometimes when you're just constantly giving in a certain situation, it drains you so much, and you sort of need that bit of time and space to recharge and rest. Even though it's not physically resting, it was resting me mentally and emotionally, because I wasn't trying to care for this tiny thing that I'm terrified all the time that I'm going to do something wrong and something's going to go wrong with her. So it was really
Mm.
nice to not have that responsibility for a bit. And it meant that, yeah, when I was back at home, I was just feeling sort of happier around my child, happier around my husband. And it was a lot more positive, really.
That's amazing. So, what was it like when you brought your little family to your first tournament again? What was that like having your baby there? That's got to have been like amazing. Like, I've got
Yeah.
chills just thinking about it. Like,
Yeah, our first season, she didn't come to many. She was still quite young,
mm.
so she'd sort of be on the sidelines, and she was sort of barely sitting up, rolling over, those sorts of things. But it was great just having her around. She has no idea what's going on. She just sees lots of people in brightly coloured stuff running around. So, but as she's been sort of getting older the last 2 years, sort of as she turned 2, 3 years old, I love having her there. She's like my little sidekick. She's got matching Cheetahs uniforms and stuff like that. So, specially made from Football America, she had it done. So she's got like a replica of my jersey. She's got shorts.
Oh,
She's got a little pair of
my
boots,
heart.
and she comes along. She comes along to our training sessions. She comes along to our tournaments. She's in all of our team photos. She's like a little mascot, really, and she gets on with everyone. Loves running around. Loves running at a tackle bag. So it's nice. I just enjoy having her in that environment because I just think growing up, I had lots of male relatives that were into sport, and that's got what got me into sport. But there weren't many sort of female role models that were playing lots of sports at the time. So I just want my daughter to be able to grow up in a world where she doesn't know, she knows that there's American football. Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing for women. And I don't want her to grow up like that. I don't want her to think, I can't play this sport because it's a boys' sport, or I can't do that because it's not for me. I just want her to grow up in a world of accessibility to all sports, whichever ones that she wants to do. And do you know what? Even if she doesn't want to do sport and she wants to paint, then, fair enough. I won't be too disappointed.
So, I guess touching back on your childhood, was sport, is it something your parents did, like as a family unit? Were you a sporty family, or was it something you naturally magnetised to?
Yeah, it weren't specifically sort of parents. It was more, I have sort of 4 or 5 uncles, but they're more similar in age to me than my actual mum. So they're more like sort of having like 4 or 5 older brothers, really. And they were all into different kinds of sports, whether it be go-karting or, rollerblading, hockey, football, stuff like that. Lots of wrestling, lots of climbing trees, all stuff like that. And I just desperately wanted to keep up with them all the time. So I did a bit of go-karting, and I was the first female to win a trophy at Streatham Kart Raceway, down in South London. There used to be like a race club there, which met once a month, every Saturday, and I was the only female that was there. And I was racing against these boys when I was about 7 or 8, all the way up to the ages of 16 years old. So they were big boys, and I had to have seat inserts put in, weights put in to weigh me down in the car because I was so little. Had these things on the pedals where I had to flip them back to make them even bigger for me so that I could reach the pedals. But I was just adamant, I was going to do it regardless. If they could do it, well, then I'll do it. And it's the same for football, if the boys are playing, then I'm going to play. And I just sort of maybe kept that sort of attitude in me. So wherever I went, if someone's playing, I'm playing. I don't care if I'm not meant to. I don't care if, I'm the only female here. And you're not going to put me in goal every time at the football cage either. I'm coming out and I'm playing properly. So, and, I found that actually I got a fairly good reception from people. I think it was the initial hesitation. Oh, there's a girl that wants to play. Everyone be careful, or don't pass the ball to her, or put her in goal or something. But very shortly, their perception changed when they saw that I just wanted to play and I just wanted to have fun. And then actually it was like having even more big older brothers and people. And then you had people at the parks looking after you and knew who you were because you were down playing in the football cage. You had loads of older boys always looking out for me, which was, always good. So, yeah, just sports has always been a big thing for us.
So, the reason why I'm asking that, I'm going to go on a bit of a detour, but there is a method behind the madness. Growing up, you had your uncles as kind of an influence. Now, as a teen girl, puberty hitting, it's usually when a lot of girls disengage from sport. It's that wanting to kind of fit in with peers. was that a factor for you at all, or were you just completely absorbed by
Yeah,
by
it just never was. Like, genuinely, it was never even a consideration for me. I think I was very aware that I wasn't part of like the pretty girl group. I wasn't part of. I was probably had a group of just sporty friends that were other girls, and we were all a bit mismatched and a bit here and there. But they were the most genuine people, and I think I've always sort of been more drawn to those kind of people anyway. People that do things that they enjoy and for their passions just mean more to me than people that are just trying to fit in somewhere or trying to be part of a crowd that isn't necessarily beneficial for them themselves. They just think that's what they need to be. But yeah, the statistics and the numbers and the figures for girls that drop out of sport, from primary school to secondary school, and then sort of especially after secondary school, when those clubs and stuff at school aren't readily available anymore. It's like it's just something that I don't want for my own daughter, which is why I'm quite keen to have her involved in seeing that sports go on no matter how old you are. And you can keep going and playing them until you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s. You just keep doing something, keep your body active, keep moving, keep your mind healthy, because I think it's the biggest mental, like the biggest support for good and positive mental health is being physically active. And especially team sports, being around people and having people that support you and look after you.
That's exactly why I was asking, like, is that like an important thing for you with your daughter? Because I always feel like when you yourself have a child, it's kind of like, what can you do and fill that gap that you had growing up? And I think it's amazing that you're surrounding your daughter with all these really powerful women of all shapes and sizes as well.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of get back on track for GB then, if we park your precious angel for a minute? Like, going back to GB, what was that just a switch of this is what I want to do now, or?
Well, I think I'd sort of had it in the back of my mind already when I came back. If it was something that I'd be able to do, and the more I played, the more game time I got, the more training I was making it to. I was like, you know what, let's just see how far we get. And then we were at a game, one of our tournaments with the Cheetahs. It was it was originally hosted by the London Warriors, and the head coach for GB was there at the time, and he'd been watching a couple of games. And then after my two tournaments, I was brought over to come and meet him and just say, this is Aimee, etc. This is Chris. This is the head coach of GB. And then he said about basically come to the development sort of tryouts. They were initially trials, but they're more like development days now, which I think is quite good. But it was initially sort of trials, come down, see how you fit in with the team, see what you've got to offer, kind of thing. And there was another couple from Cheetahs that got the same invite. So I went down with them, went to the trial days. It was a big step going over to GB, like going from sevens to 11s football. I'd never played 11s, diamonds and all those sorts of things hadn't really come back after COVID. And because I never got on before, I'd never really played 11s. So it was a big step. And also, the talent that's there is just insane. And again, I was sort of hit with that insecurity feeling again. And it came back to me thinking, the people that are on this field, you've got, like Ruth Matter, international player playing over in America as her career, playing American football. And you've got Phoebe, Sky Sports presenter, that's, a football legend. And I'm like, Aimee Mulcahy, the mum from Dunstable, like, how do you even have the audacity to step on the field with some of these people? So that was sort of my thing. And then, but as soon as we got there, again, you put your pads on, you put your helmet on, and you do the warm up, and then it all just sort of goes out the back of your mind. You just tune out, you switch off, and you're back in the game again. And it was great. It was a really good experience. It was really difficult. You get hit hard. There's some big players, and I don't know what's in the water up north, but Jesus, the big, powerful, strong women. And I was like, man, in sevens football, I feel like a big fish. In 11s football in GB, I was very much a little fish, and I had a lot to learn, and I needed to learn it quickly and get better quickly if I was going to do anything on that team. So I was sort of on the fringes of GB the training squad for the past sort of 2.5 years. And it was only recently, in the most recent game in the European Championships against Spain, that I got an opportunity to actually go out and play for the team. So it was really exciting. It's been a tough process, like without a doubt, probably one of the most difficult processes I've been through. Not just like physically, because obviously that's a big factor, but like it just consumes a lot of your life. Like to do it and do it well and do it properly, it consumes a lot of your time, a lot of your money, and it's just trying to fit in how that fit within my family, with my daughter, my husband. Working in emergency services, playing sevens football. I play rugby still. I play soccer still. So I was like trying to fit it all in with that. And I was like, I'm not too sure how I can fit this all in. But the amount of time I was spending away training, sometimes there were overnight camps for a weekend. And it's like 4 or 5 hours round trip to get to and from. It got to the point where I was like, is this viable to keep going? Or is it putting too much of a strain on me, too much of a strain on my family? And I thought one of the main reasons why I wanted to do it was because I wanted to be able to say to my daughter, look, if you really want to do something, then if you work as hard as you can, then you will get there eventually. Like, you don't have to be born with God-given talent. Sometimes you just need to be a hard worker, and you just need to commit to a cause and go for it. And so I was sort of at that crossroads where I was like, do I keep going? Do I call it a day? And I just thought, you know what, I can't let all this time I've spent away from my daughter already be for nothing. I'm just going to have to keep going and make sure this is worthwhile, and make sure I've got something to show her to say, I missed a lot of time with you. I missed a lot of nights where I didn't get to put you to bed, and I didn't get to be there in the morning when you woke up because I'm out playing football. But it was for a reason, and it was a good reason. And this is for me to be able to show you that whatever you want, just go and get it. Don't stop. Don't let anything stop you. Just try your best, and eventually you'll get there.
Yeah, fuck. Like, when I read your Insta post that you wrote that, and seeing you in the GB kit with your little girl, I got welled up. But like, hearing you talk about it is so fucking powerful, and it is just so incredible for this little girl to have a mum that is so kind of determined to be the role model that you might not have ever had. It's just like, Aimee, you're incredible, genuinely. Like, it's just so phenomenal. Like, what was that like for you, kind of getting to Spain? Like, I know we didn't get the result that we wanted, but what was that like seeing your little girl, like, of an age where she sees mummy, like, on this international stage? Like, what was that like?
It was mad, to be honest. Like, we didn't get the result we wanted, but actually I was still just bursting with happiness. And it probably looked misplaced at the time, because a lot of people were very upset about the result. But for
Yeah.
me, I was like, I've just played for my country internationally in Spain, which I've always wanted to do. To be able to stand and, sing our national anthem was a massive thing for me. And then to have my daughter there as well, it was just uncomprehendable. And I was just happy regardless. I was just happy to be given that opportunity. I was just happy to be able to stand on that field. And then, I brought her onto the pitch afterwards, and she's running up and down, and she was giving out GB flags to the Spain supporters and all sorts. And she was,
Excellent.
running over to the coaches and speaking to the other GB players, and the girls were all coming over to her, and just thought, man, this is what it's about for me. I've almost feel like I've done what I've set out to do. I wanted my daughter to be able to have this moment, and she might not remember it, but for me, I'll never forget it, and that will stay with me forever.
That's just absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I've got chills. Do you feel like you getting to that stage, do you feel like it has kind of impacted how your daughter talks about or communicates about women and about girls when it comes to sport? Do you feel like she talks in a way that's like, mummy is strong, or I am strong? Do you feel like that being around kind of football has impacted on that at all?
think it's probably a little bit too early to tell, unfortunately, but I have no idea. I have no doubt that that will be the case. She's pretty fearless, and I think that probably comes down to the fact that she sits and watches us all knock lumps out of each other for however many hours once a month on a Saturday when we have these tournaments. I'm trying to bring her up in where she's not scared to do anything or try anything, and I think that's starting to show in her personality. Like, she's riding a two-wheeler bike, pedals, like, she's not learned turn 3, and she's off flying around and BMX tracks with the big boys and stuff like that.
That's
So,
amazing.
and I just think because we're raising her to be fearless, I'm like, if you want to do it, go do it. If you want to, try this, go try it. And I like to think that she will have taken on sort of the influences from all the different, people she's met, especially in the sports, and just sees it. But I hope that it's just second nature to her. I hope that actually it's not a big deal, and actually she doesn't have to say, I'm going to do this because of this. I just hope she just does it because she thinks that's normal, and she just thinks that's part of life. And I think that's the way it should be, because, when we look at little boys playing football, it's not a big deal. But when we look at little girls playing football, we make a fuss over it. We make a big deal. And I just think it shouldn't be. It should just be second nature. Everyone should have equal access and the rights to play whatever sport they want, however they want to play it.
Amen. And I hope, I really hope that this long continues. Do you feel like being a mum has changed how you approach the game at all, or how you approach being a teammate?
I'd like to say it did. I'd like to say that I was, really responsible and really caring and was a good role model for other players. But actually, I think I'm often the one that has to be put back in her place sometimes, and saying I'm very passionate, and I can sometimes get in a bit of a to-do with people on the field. I think as well, playing D-line, you can be a real menace and you can be a real disruptor of the game, and I think that can wind a lot of people up. So I often get into sort of to-dos with other players, but it's at the end of the day, once the game's over, we take off our helmets, we all shake hands, and we're all friends again, despite what words or actions have been exchanged on the field. And again, with my teammates, socials wise, I think I'm probably the worst out of all of them. I'm the one that's normally dancing on a table with a beer, and it's the rest of them saying, "Come on, Aimee, time to get down now." So unfortunately, no, I don't think being a mum's changed much about how I play the game or how I communicate or how I socialise. I think it's given me the opportunity to still be me in an environment where I can. So that's really good.
I love that answer though. It's like, no, becoming a mum changes nothing. I am an absolute menace to everyone, and
Yeah.
long may it reign.
Yeah, on and off the field. My poor coaches, they're like pulling their hair out all the time, whether it be in the middle of a game or afterwards when we're in the bar having beers. They really don't know what to do with me, I think, unfortunately.
That is incredible. Fuck me. God. Oh, man. Do you think there's anything that teams can do to make their team and their environment more family friendly? Or is there something about Hertz that makes it kind of particularly accessible for you as a new family?
I think it's a difficult one, really. I think it was, for me, the coming back was, will I be the only mum there? I think maybe sometimes just publicising a bit more that, we've got mums on the teams, we've got these. So I know, like Hertfordshire Cheetahs, we put out Mother's Day posts, and they'll often put up pictures of the mums in the team. And it's just something like that. So if someone come across our page one day and they've seen that, they can go, there's mums playing that. So, maybe I could go play that, or I could go back to playing that. So maybe just publicising a bit more, putting a bit more focus, shining a light, maybe. That is something that can be done. And just because you've had a baby, just because you're now a mum, you don't have to stop being you. You don't have to stop doing the things that you enjoy doing. It's absolutely a compromise. It's absolutely a balance, and it's forever a juggling act, and it always will be. But it doesn't mean you have to stop doing the things you enjoy doing, and that's the biggest thing. In terms of, being at the club, for me, it's loads of women that just love my daughter as much as I do, which is great. So the fact that, I can turn my back for 1 minute and she's off playing with one of my other teammates. So she's just growing up surrounded by so many people that love and care for her. I think it'd be the same, whatever team you go to. I don't think it's a Hertfordshire Cheetahs specific thing. I think it's wherever you go. But I definitely would like to see more opportunity to get younger girls involved in the game, starting from flag. You know, they do rugby tops and stuff like that. You know, let's bring it in for girls younger ages. Let's get them into the sport early. You know, I don't want my daughter to be 21, 22, only just finding out about it like I was. I want her to know about it from the start.
So what would you say to any kind of potential, like we're talking young girls or even mums that are on the fence about joining American football? What would you say to them?
Just come and try it. Like, there's no reason not to try it. If you come down and it doesn't work, then like, fair enough. Or just reach out and speak to someone that you know is a mum. You know, you can have my Instagram handle. You can put me up, and anyone that's got any questions, wants any advice, wants any support, wants anything like that, I'm happy to speak you through it. I'm happy to do all of that. So I think just come and try it, because as soon as you're there, I feel like you'll just have time to recharge, have a bit of time to yourself, you know, get your identity back, get your life back on track. It's really hard when you're pregnant to keep sort of up with fitness and stuff like that, because being pregnant can make you very ill. Like I was sick for weeks and weeks and weeks when I was pregnant. You know, I lost a lot of weight, and it's, you know, it's hard to then get your body back to what it was. So I think whoever has just had a baby, if you can just get back into some sport, even if it's not American football, do you know what? If you can just get back into some kind of activity, some sport where you're around people, just absolutely do it. It's the best thing you can do.
That's amazing. So what are the plans for you going forward? Because Cheetahs, you are finishing head of the division, aren't you? Smashing it out of the park.
Yeah. Well, top of the table at the minute, which is nice. It makes a change from our last season. It's been a rocky couple of seasons for us. We've had to sort of reinvent ourselves. You know, new coaches, create a new culture on the team, get new rookies in. And, you know, and every part of the team has to be sort of all ticking in together in time for it to work. And I think it's taken us a couple of seasons to figure that out. You know, we lost every game last season. We didn't win one. And now we're smashing it. We've won nearly all of our games. We're top of the table. We're going to win. We're going to end up top of the table. We're going to go on to the finals, and we're going to smash it there. So it's going to be brilliant. It's going to be good fun. You know, watch this space, see what the Cheetahs have got to say, because, you know, BAFA Game of the Week, they keep leaving us out of all their Game of the Week posts, even though we're like top of the table. But we know who's Game of the Week sometimes. Let's see who puts the numbers up on the board, hey?
That's that defensive end menace coming out in you. I absolutely love it. Long may it rain. Long may it rain. So, have you got any messages for rookie Aimee?
Rookie Aimee.
Yeah, if we go back in time to rookie Aimee, what would you say to you?
I think probably I think when you're at training sessions, there's so much more you can get out of training sessions by watching other people be coached. And that's only something that I picked up when I went to GB, really. And, you know, it's free money. If you're watching someone else being given pointers, then I'm going to think, well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it better. Do you know what I mean? So you can take on other people's hints and tips, and you think, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it just as well, if not better. And that's how I'm going to improve my game. I think it's, you know, if I could tell me back then, be coachable and, you know, watch what everyone else is doing, see who's getting the hints and tips and stealing from them as well.
That's amazing. So, have you got any leaving sentiments for your adoring fans? Because I'm sure there are very, very, very many.
The only thing, I just want to say a big thank you to sort of the whole women's football community. I think we're doing so well, you know, bringing each other up. There's no cattiness, no bitterness. And, you know, every time my daughter's there on game day, she's embraced by every team, whichever side. You know, she wanders off with players on the opposing teams. She's photographed, she's in all the pictures. And I love that sort of acceptance that we can all do that. So big fan of that. Thank you for everyone that's sort of allowing us to have that space and to have a child around and letting her be brought up there. And, you know, giving me the opportunity to come back to the sport and, you know, see what we can do with it and where we go.
That's amazing. Well, my leaving sentiment is you are the first guest that's ever reduced me to tears. So thank you for that. But it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And just thank you for being just an incredible role model for not just your daughter, but for so many future GB, future American football players. Like, what you're doing is so fucking powerful, and it doesn't just affect your daughter because she's going to go into school, and that ripple effect is just going to be amazing by you just being you. And I think that's just incredible, and you're just such a role model. So thank you for being a menace.
Thank you
And
for giving me the
and
opportunity
being
to,
you.
come on and talk about a topic that I weren't too sure, if it would hit, how it would go down. But it's nice to have the opportunity to sit and talk about something that's obviously quite close to my heart and means a lot to me and means a lot to my family. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So, I've been Bo Snow.
I've been Aimee
You've
Mulcahy.
been, and this has been Lids Off. Bye.